Hello and welcome. This is from the CBN. We bring to you weekly reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. I am William Dada. Central banks in both the advanced and emerging market economies are tightening monetary policy to curb rising prices. In Nigeria, headline inflation year-on-year ticked up to 16.82% in April from 15.92% in March, a 90 basis points increase and the third consecutive increase since the beginning of the year. To address that, the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee decided to raise interest rate by 150 basis points, and it is now set at 13%. In this package, we analyze that decision to raise the benchmark interest rate with the help of two seasoned economists. That's after this break. Stay with us.
North, South, East or West, male or female, old school or millennial, rural or urban, the Naira is the same, and so is the e-Naira. The e-Naira is a legal tender issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So, let's embrace it. The e-Naira will foster financial inclusion, improve access to credit, facilitate cross-border remittances, and it's easier to transfer. E-Naira, same Naira, more possibilities. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN.
Welcome back. At the last MPC meeting, the committee was delighted about the 3.11% GDP growth in Q1, which showed a steady recovery for the sixth consecutive quarter, but was concerned about the somewhat aggressive rise in inflation by about 90 basis points in April. To dampen the expectation of the inflationary pressure, MPC decided on the need to take a shift from its cautious approach on interest rate hike while adopting accommodative approach to developmental finance initiatives that have supported the growth of the economy and sustained recovery. But economic analysts are divided on whether the time was right for a hike. To get his perspective, I had a chat with Dr. Tope Fashoa, CEO Global Analytics Consulting. Dr. Tope Fashoa, thank you for joining us on the program. Now, to rein in inflation, the MPC decided to raise interest rates to 13%. What does that mean for the economy?
Essentially, what a rate hike means is that lending rates will increase, and of course, the banks are always very quick. They have the quick finger on the trigger to increase interest rates and lending rates, especially even far above deposit rates, basically to increase the spread between the two. So it's not per se very advisable for us.
The committee said it may seem contradictory to raise interest rates in the face of fragile growth at this time, but that is a dilemma faced by most central banks around the world. What's your take on that?
I think it's important for people to know who they are and where their economy stands. The fact that every other central bank is increasing interest rates does not mean that we should as well. Nigeria has very peculiar challenges and very significant problems as well. We need to be very keen as to what our targets and our goals should be. And indeed, you see that even as they have increased rates, despite the increase in rates, inflation could still increase in Nigeria. For example, now most of the lenders are fintechs who are lending small monies to Nigerians who never had access to loans before. And in increasing rates, that they could even further increase their own rates. Banks are not lending, they were not lending, and so this does not slow them down at all. So that's a contradiction there.
All right. How significant is the decision to keep interest rates on CBN intervention initiatives at 5% for the next few months up until March next year?
Of course, rates on CBN intervention remain low at 5%, which is well commendable because, again, we are pushing loans out and trying to, reflate the economy. So again, the central bank is reflating the economy on this side, and if you like, deflating the economy on the other side. It's commendable because these are things that are pushing out for those who can survive. To note that, the low rates that the central bank is giving is they understand at that level that they cannot afford to hike rates. But again, the central bank should be pursuing the issues of repayment and non-performance of those loans, which some of that have come out in recent times that many people aren't paying back, and with all sorts of excuses. They should target repayment.
So apart from interest rate hike, what other options are there for curbing inflation?
Some of the inflation we have right now is imported inflation because there is inflation all over the world, because we're an import-dependent economy. So therefore, everything you can do to ensure your people import less. That's why I support the CBN policy of restricting forex on a number of goods. If you ask me, more items should be restricted and made more difficult. Look, we're killing our economy, and nobody's going to tell us. That's what every country has done. When they were growing, they restricted mass and wanton importation of every little thing in the world. So if we can achieve that, we can also slow down inflation.
The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine is said to have caused supply chain disruptions globally. Is there any opportunities in this situation for Nigeria economically to tap into?
Of course, there's opportunity with the Russian. Unfortunately for us, the Minister of State for Petroleum did say that we were not going to be able to make anything out of this because for some reason they cut down 300,000 barrels production on crude oil and they couldn't get it back up. Now I heard that they've been able to only recover 70,000 barrels per day productivity. I mean, we shot ourselves in the leg actually. If we were able to do that, we would have been able to meet some of the supply shortages of from Europe. Even still, they're talking to us about that. Gas into Europe as well. We should begin to think very seriously about that now. A lot of the flared gases need to be, caged, bottled, whatever it is you could do, and sent to Europe and piped into Europe. So there's vast opportunity as a result of that war, actually.
All right, Dr. Tope Fashiwa, many thanks for your time and your insights. We'll take a break now and return with more analysis. Afterwards, stay tuned.
If someone calls or sends you a message that you have payment issues with your bank and requests that you reveal sensitive information, end the call and don't click. It might just be a scam. No bank will ever ask you for your personal identification number, PIN, mobile banking password, or your card verification code, CVC. Scammers always sound genuine, but don't fall for their bait. Don't respond to phony emails or SMS, and don't click on any dubious links. Even if the other party calls your date of birth or your BVN, don't give them your security details. If you suspect there's an issue with your account, the safest thing to do is go to your bank or call the number provided by your bank directly. Protect your bank details so no one steals your money. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're watching from the CBN, a weekly program that brings to you reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. We're still on the analysis of the MPC's decision to raise interest rate from 11.5% to 13% in order to curb rising inflation in Nigeria. My next expert is a lead consultant, Industry and Private Sector Development, ECOWAS, Professor Ken Ife. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today, Professor Ken Ife.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's just dig right into it. The MPC raised benchmark interest rates to 13% in order to moderate inflationary pressure, improve market sentiment, and restore investor confidence, among other things. What is your view on that decision, and how do you think it will impact on the Nigerian economy?
Well, for some time now, central bank has been balancing growth with inflation, and they've been restricting the temptation to push the interest rates. But I think we've come to a point where it's inevitable that measure will need to be taken, because quite apart from the host state of structural issues around our monetary policy, the effectiveness of our monetary policy, we also have an added pressure. Of course, speculation has been fueling the perturbations you have in the black market segment of our forex, which is even just 7%, while the 93% is really in our official window, the transactions. But the time is we have politicians now looking for dollar for whatever reasons, and then we have increased tempo of speculation on the forex side of things. And then you also have traders using dollars, buying dollars to import, and that's affecting our balance of trade and balance of payments. So there was a necessity for the bank to show that signal that, look, if you're going to have to come and borrow money for things other than just improving productivity, then you have to pay a high price for that. So to that extent, I support that measure.
It is interesting to note that the Monetary Policy Committee advised the CBN to keep its interest rates on its intervention facilities to critical sectors of the economy at 5%, at least until next March. How significant do you think that decision is?
No, if this has already been taken before by the governor, who decided that many months ago, when it was due for renewal in March. So they pushed it forward to March next year. But it was interesting that the committee is also reminding the bank to keep to that. We needed to keep faith with that, because otherwise you are going to start hurting the economy itself. We banked on the fact that since we're already protecting the critical sectors that are driving our economy, which is the real sector, and of course also agriculture, since we are protecting them, then we can gamble a little bit with increasing interest rates and see how that goes in discouraging the spurious demands for dollars, and also the dollarization that is trendy in there, plus the politicians looking for dollar by all means to settle their voters. So all of those are what we want to see how that goes. But also you need to be aware that the impact of Fed in America increasing, normalizing their rates, the monetary policy and rates, would mean, because of 60% of global debts being domiciled or in dollar. Now that would mean that there might be repricing of dollars, of debts. And that means that we may now have to pay more for our debt service that are denominated in dollars. And that's going to be global. Many countries are going to face the same thing we are facing. And of course, there are also pressures coming from Ukraine-Russian war that is pushing prices and increasing input costs and cost-push inflation. So all of those are also going to come into the equation, into the fiscal and monetary equation.
All right. Theoretically, interest rate hike is one of the tools or instruments used by monetary authorities to control or rein in inflation. Can we look at other tools that may be available to the CBN?
The thing is that these are the traditional. This is traditional way, but the effectiveness, the efficacy of it in Nigeria is actually open to question, because there are issues around the transmission of monetary policy. When you consider that nearly 40% of our population are not actually in the banking sector, and then over half of our population are poor. So you'll be wondering who is actually there to be affected by those policies, who is actually borrowing the money. It's only a few that have that privilege of borrowing. The banks are not lending to a huge population. There's only a few that have access to liquidity and then also have access to borrowing, then that are actually diverting this money to other purposes or investing it in productive activity. So if you have the capacity to borrow and you put it in electioneering campaign, and then you put it in importing goods that are overheating us, and then you put it in buying foreign exchange then you are not doing any good to the economy. So these are some of the challenges. And then the actual factors that actually bind the progress and growth are structural in nature. Security, are you going to buy your way out of insecurity? That is threatening production across the whole country. Is an asymmetrical warfare in all the 6 geopolitical zones that are affecting and impacting on agriculture. So that's making it even more difficult for us to meet our food supply targets. And even all the resources we are putting on production, manufacturing and export is inhibited by the pervasive insecurity. Then you also have a lot more factors. Honestly, there's so many factors that are making it difficult. You look at power, how power is constraining growth. and investment. People don't want to invest because they can't see power to drive their business. They're not coming here to invest in power. They're coming here to invest in certain kinds of productive activities, and they can't find power. They can't find water. They can't find road. The thing is helping in pushing the cost. And petrol is so expensive. Diesel is over 700 naira per liter. These are not where they want to put their money. Right now, many of the foreign investors.
It would appear that the CBN has limited things to do with all the factors that you have mentioned, insecurity, power, and the rest of it. But what more can they do, really, to control the inflation that has been consistent in the last 3 months?
Well, if anything that you expect the central bank to do, the central bank is already doing, as if they were waiting for this day. The central bank knows that from the moment in 2007, they embarked on foreign currency demand management and then blacklisted those 43 items. From that moment, they decided to intervene against the structural factors that are impeding growth. And that's where they now started pouring resources on food production, then second level, 100 for 100 PPP to focus on manufacturing and productivity, then move to the third phase, which is a RT $200 billion in the next 3 years on non-oil export. Now you can see that these three are linked from the ground all the way to export. So they've settled that. And then also there are other areas like manufacturing sector that they have 2 trillion naira on pharmaceutical, manufacturing sector and MSME. So they're all coming together. This is a plan that is continuous and addressing the entire spectrum to ensure that we can rein in inflation just from the supply side of things. So, but that's not the end. There's also demand side that they try also to address that by using their open market operations and some respect. But it's not all. We cannot leave all this job to central bank because there are fiscal measures that can also augment the monetary policy. For example, let me just give you an example. We've seen the tendency for increased borrowing. We've also seen the fact that there is so much money in circulation. You could see that from the figures they displayed last month. Now, one of the ways to cut that back is for us to do more of the expected borrowing by the fiscal authorities from the domestic borrowing. Let's do more domestic borrowing, because if you do more external borrowing, you still have to find dollar to service those loans. So if you do more borrowing, you help mop up a bit of that liquidity that is also helping fuel inflation. So these are some of the ways, but also we need help. We need fiscal support. If we as a country is confident in going to borrow 4 trillion to subsidize petrol, why don't we just get 1 trillion to subsidize agriculture for the farmers? So let's do that and produce more food. But you cannot turn to monetary authority and tell them to give 1 trillion subsidy. They can't do that. It's a depositors' money that they are lending out. So you have to say to fiscal authority, if you are comfortable to use 500 billion every year to social investment program, and you are comfortable with paying 4 trillion or borrowing 4 trillion to subsidize petrol, please do something for agriculture. Put some subsidy there. Either 500 billion or 1 trillion, whatever, put it there. And then we can see how that could balance and help what is going on.
All right, moving on. The MPC noted at its last meeting that the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has resulted in the disruption of supply chain across the world. So is there any economic opportunities for Nigeria in the face of this disruption? Can we tap into anything economically to benefit the country?
Well, there are opportunities. Wherever you have challenges, you also have opportunities. The big challenge we have in the global supply chain disruption caused by both COVID and the Ukraine-Russian war is that there's going to be acute food shortages. Then there's shortage of gas because they are turning down the tap to Europe. 40% of gas used in Europe is coming from Russia. And then also that is affecting grain supply, especially wheat. Wheat is used not only for producing bread, but also for producing a bioethanol and also for feed, animal feed, fish and fish. All of very huge rises in the prices. And we in Nigeria, we are somehow safe because we're not in totality. While Dangote is producing urea now, which we can be exporting, we're also exporting fertilizer, NPK fertilizer, but we have shortage of lime. So we have to find lime, begin to source lime everywhere. And we should actually look at West Africa and Africa, see where we can find lime in our own environment, so that we reduce the cost, because the moment you start going outside Africa, now you're looking for dollar to buy those. But if we can find countries, neighboring countries, where we can now use the PAPPS, which is the Pan-African Payment System, then we won't have any recourse to dollar. So in that way, we can temper that. So we have opportunity to export more. If we can sort out the lime situation, we have opportunity to export more from Dangote urea. And then, of course, we have gas that is going out. Originally, the plan for gas is trans-Saharan into Algeria, but now Morocco is doing not only the phosphate deal with us to support our NPK, but they are now supporting with Europe submarine, coastal submarine gas supply to pipe it to Morocco and then across to Europe. So, and also they're looking for Egypt to Israel to Egypt and then straight to Europe. So that Nigeria is going to be a big beneficiary of all this in terms of increased demand for our gas. And it's no longer just a demand, it's a demand that is backed by willingness for them to put money. So the Europe, they're going to invest more money to have this happen as at yesterday.
All right, Professor Ken Ife, we'll leave it there for now. Many thanks for your time and your insights.
Oh, thank you.
Up until a few years ago, Nigeria produced far less than it consumed, spending up to $22 billion annually on importation. Then came the import policy by the federal government. Now, to survive, the nation must learn to be self-sufficient. And so far, we are on the verge of achieving this through the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria and other stakeholders in support of local farmers and efforts of value chain entrepreneurs. Now, the goal of creating 10 million jobs in 5 years through 10 commodities is gradually being actualized. Let's buy Nigerian to grow Nigeria.
I am Dr. Olumide Olukoni from Redeemers University, Department of Biochemistry.
And I'm Naomi Chinwe Oguke. I'm a foreign level biochemistry student of Redeemers University.
We are presenting the proposal for the bioconversion of waste to wealth. And the aim of this proposal is to create a clean environment, to employ teeming youth, and of course to produce viable products at cheaper and affordable rates. And in this proposal, we have plan of converting vegetable waste even to organic fertilizers, and to also create biofertilizer, biopesticide. We also be looking at biodiesel production and also the production of other viable products like pigments and some other things that could be used in the textile industry and energy production as well. Interaction with the panel tells me that they are out to get a quality proposal and also to ensure that the money that is being given is not being wasted, and of course to encourage us into getting patent for some of our ideas and to ensure that we move forward even from there. I'd like to commend the CBN for this initiative. I think it's a way of encouraging scientists in the laboratory even to come out with more ideas and more innovation. And also, I believe that if all agencies of the government are coming up with initiatives of this nature, it will help this nation a great deal. I remember I was in India. I entered into a laboratory, and when I look at one equipment, you see this is from Ministry of Science and Tech. They call their own department. and another one you see from Department of Biotechnology. Even the University Grant Commission, that is equivalent to our Nigerian University Commission here, they are also giving equipment. If all the agencies are giving equipment for the laboratories, for all tertiary institutions, by now I think the lack of infrastructure in the university would have been minimal.
And that's the package from the CBN this week. You can get your unresolved banking issues across to the CBN Consumer Protection Department using the email address cpd@cbn.gov.ng. Attach relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center on the phone line +234 700 2255 226. Local call rates may apply. Send your inquiries and comments to the dedicated email address from the CBN@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I am William Isidada. Stay safe and bye for now.